they are facing changes in digital transformation?
Thank you so much. I just looked at my watch yesterday. I had 26,000 steps on my watch. So I guess we need to have more conferences because on a usual day, I guess I'm not able to get.
In the last graph, you're going to live a really long time as well.
Yeah, I wish so. More conferences and more exchange would be great. But otherwise, I think my presentation is going to go in a little bit different direction than the ones we've heard before. So I'm going to talk about past insights and future challenges regarding labor inspectors and the way they face digital transformation. And I think labor inspectors, there are some actually quite a specific group or occupational profession. They play a very important role within within almost all occupational health and safety systems. And that's what we are actually focusing at in our working group. So how do all these actors within the systems work together? What do we know? How can the institutional occupational health and safety system also influence companies in the end? And as I said, so every country has its own specifics, has different, sometimes different approaches, but generally all the same commitment to protecting the workforce, of course, and the workers, and to provide guidance and also enforcement. ILO proposes a quote of 1 labor inspector per 10,000 employees, and just an exemplary graph that many countries are not able to reach this number. And I mean, just if you imagine, I think we heard the number before, usually a company gets visited like every 10 years or even less. And so generally we have many high degree of professionalism among labor inspectors, so they have to navigate a complex set of rules and regulations, complex legal situations they have to manage. They're very autonomous in their work oftentimes, and they face kind of ambiguous environments. And so we thought that it would be important to have a closer look at them, and because they are the face of many occupational or legal side, I would like to say. If we remember Anthony's slide from before, he had those like divided systems, but labor inspectors, they are the connections, so it's important to have a look at them. And what did we do? So for gathering our past insights, we conducted a scoping review, which is usually done if you have topics where there's limited scientific evidence, so you can't really have a systematic review. And oftentimes there's both important information in great literature and also scientific literature. And there's 2 goals. So on the one hand, you want to map the evidence, you want to try to get an overview over a field, but on the other hand, you also want to point out where are the gaps, so what do we not know? I'm not quite sure how to say it. Where to gather new research questions and need for research. And generally, it's a multi-step and iterative process. The scoping review we conducted was based on a search in 5 databases. We applied a very global search strategy, so we wanted to find out about the working conditions of labor inspectors and what do we know so far. And we searched for very broad terms like labor, inspection, inspector, and tried to get a look at the literature. Then we used the 4 eyes principle. So we had 3 raters to rate all the titles and abstracts that we gathered by our search, and had 2 raters independently code or extract the data from the studies. And to talk about numbers, so we had about 2,000 sources or studies within the database search, and about 37 publications from the great literature. And as you can see, stepwise we reduced these numbers by looking at the titles, looking at the abstracts, and had about had 75 full texts that we extracted and were looking for evidence. And all in all, we had 32 studies we included in the review, and which is which are used for the following insights I would like to present. So all in all, we found that labor inspectors, they face a kind of complex relations on very different levels. So on the one hand, there's the social and economic context which influences their work. Of course, there's the institutional and legal context they have to deal with, and within the labor inspectorates, there are relations to supervisors, to colleagues, and again, to the outside world, to the companies they're visiting and inspecting, and where they enforce labor standards. What we found is, I'm not quite sure if it's the right word in English, but like tensions, or fields of tensions, dilemmata, where we see that practice and what we actually would wish for kind of go in different directions. So on the highest level of social and economic context, we find that austerity policies and a growing need for effectiveness to perform in a measurable way have shaped the profession in the past few years, and also new challenges from the world of work, like fragmented employment relations that are really hard to define, and that are where it's hard to enforce labor standards. And so this makes it hard for labor inspectors to apply existing legal frameworks, and often they face the pressure to report measurable numbers and are not able to address the root causes in the way they would like to do so. And also on this highest level, one study, for example, found that a rise in the GDP is connected to a decrease in sanctions. So we see that there are several mechanisms working and influencing the way they can do their job. On institutional and legal context, we find that labor inspectors are very much between political pressure and some kind of independence, or their autonomous working conditions. So oftentimes we found within the studies that political agendas are influencing the way they do their job and the way they have to conduct inspections. It was reported that rapid changes in legislation oftentimes do not translate to guidelines or to support in conducting their work, and they also reported a lack of legal protection for themselves. So oftentimes when it comes to sanctioning, or if there's fines or legal procedures, they did not feel that their supervisors had their backs. And here, this was not exactly one of our studies, but I would like to point out that that it's actually not intended to be that way. So labor inspectors should be impartial, they should have independence of changes of government, and so this is some kind of dilemma they're facing. And of course, on the level of inspectorates, oftentimes we found within the studies lack of coordination or leadership, growing isolation because of digitalization, and also of course different interaction with company representatives, because as you can imagine, many companies or employees are not very happy to be visited by an inspector. And this kind of diminishes very positive aspects of the job, like the autonomy, which is highly cherished, and the collaboration that they actually seek among each other. And we also see changes because of the generational change. Changes because of change. But there's a new generation of labor inspectors growing. So many are leaving for retirement now, and so new skills, new competencies come to the labor inspectorates. And now you might ask, okay, what's the digitalization part of the presentation? And we did not find many things to say about digitalization. Just this one with maybe growing isolation, which was kind of surprising, because we thought with all these developments we've seen and in the regular world of work, we're always talking about digital transformation, so where is it in the labor inspectorates? Yeah, and not yet to be found within the literature, but hopefully quite soon. And we know from a workshop series we're conducting for a couple of years by now that there are many examples where they're using, where labor inspectors are using new technologies, new approaches to, to try to support the challenges. We had by now 6 workshops, so last week was our 6th one, where we have really interesting examples, but it's more like anecdotal evidence, so it's not really empirical evidence yet, where we see that there's AI, there are drones being used, there are webinars, there are many systems in place to support labor inspectors to get better risk-oriented selection of companies and many things. And that's why we started a PEROSH project, where we want to create this empirical base actually and find out more about the working conditions of labor inspectors, about the technologies they use, how their working tasks are supported. And this is a big project at BAuA. And some parts are in cooperation with PEROSH, with BAuA, DGUV, and the Norwegian STEMI Institute, where we want to have a closer look at that. And therefore we designed a questionnaire survey for now, where we want to have labor inspectors as the sample. It's a cross-sectional questionnaire design, it's web-based, and we ask socio-demographic questions about their task, about the technologies they use, about the working conditions, and we use a mix of established items and newly developed items. And so I kind of leave you hanging with that because the survey is recently launched. So if you know someone who is a labor inspector or who might be interested, of course you're invited to take part or to maybe snowball the information, and hopefully in 2 years at the next PEROSH conference I can tell you a little bit more, and hopefully we have created a more sound or more empirical base for our assumptions. Yes. Thank you very much.